Salutations, friends, and thank you for joining me today. I am a fan of the Netflix series The Dragon Prince. One of my favorite characters in the series, especially in the later seasons, is Viren. A bit of a polarizing figure in the fan base. I'd characterize Viren as a villain with good intentions, depending on the season. Of course, this villain was willing to have children killed, all for the purpose of maintaining his own power, but later he is given a second chance to start over, and all he wants to do is stay off the grid and enjoy the remainder of his life. Unfortunately, the love of his daughter drags him back towards the darkness. But before getting into that for the uninitiated, The Dragon Prince takes place in a fantasy world. On the eastern side of the continent are the 5 human-led kingdoms, collectively known as the Pentarchy. On the west, you have Zadia, the land of elves and dragons. In this world, historically, there are 6 sources of magic: the sun, the moon, the stars, the ocean, the earth, and the sky. Elves, dragons, and other magical creatures are innately attuned with one of the 6 arcanum, and could naturally cast magic from that source. Humans were not born with an alignment and could not naturally use magics. It was possible for humans to use something that was connected to an arcanum as a conduit for magic. However, eventually one human... Jesus, that dude looks evil. Eventually, one human discovered a 7th source of magic that would come to be called dark magic. Essentially, in lieu of using an object connected to an arcanum, dark mages use the life forms connected to an arcanum. Often, this would involve killing creatures being used as a conduit. The elves and dragons, both being magical creatures, took exception to that and exiled humanity from Zadia. The Dragon King patrolled the border with extreme prejudice.
We must secure the existence of our people and a future for skilled children.
The main plot kicks off after a group of humans cross into Zadia for reasons I'll get into later. The Dragon King took exception to that. Then one of the human kings took exception to that. But let's go a bit further back. Viren was trained in the use of magic by the High Mage of the Kingdom of Katalis, Kepar. When Kepar was ready to retire, Viren was chosen to inherit the old man's position. Viren served under King Atticus and later under King Harrow. Viren meets a woman by the name of Lissa and falls in love with her. The two marry and have 2 children, Soren and Claudia. Unfortunately, one day Soren grew ill. Viren and Lissa exhausted various remedies to no avail. Left with no other options, Viren turned to dark magic. Problem was that the spell he found required 3 ingredients. The first one was an antler from a magical beast, easy enough. The second ingredient was the Relic Staff, an artifact belonging to Sir Wood-Drowned Kittens here. The staff's current owner was Kepar, Viren's former master. Kepar refused to hand it over to Viren, not for selfish reasons, mind you. Kepar was a former dark mage himself and didn't want Viren to follow his path, even if it was to save Soren. But Viren was desperate. Kepar played one last gambit and threatened Viren's position as High Mage. Viren didn't take that too well. Staff in hand, Viren went home to fetch the final ingredient, the tears of a grieving mother. Dark magic is kinda like the dark side of the Force. It changes people physically. Lissa could see what Viren had done and what he was becoming, and she cowered away from him. Viren cornered Lissa against the wall and held her head still so that he could harvest Lissa's tears. I'm going to be honest with you, I have mixed feelings about the portrayal of Viren's fall like this. For the sake of saving a dying child, if one parent is about to dive into hell, figuratively of course, I kind of feel like the other parent would be generally a bit more supportive.
That was probably when I said to him, the least you could have done was let me drive you.
But that's besides the point. All ingredients in hand, Viren casted a spell to heal Soren. Good news, the spell worked. Bad news, the trauma of what Viren was becoming was too much for Lissa, and she left, leaving behind not only her husband, but her children as well. And at that moment, Viren did probably one of the worst things he could have done in that situation. He blamed poor baby Soren. Soren would spend the next decade plus of his life trying to win Viren's approval. Bit of irony here, but I will put a pin on that for now. Let's fast forward a bit to a few years before the start of the series. By this time, Haro is the king of Katalis. Viren is still the High Mage. Viren and Haro are very good friends, to the point where Haro invites Viren to stand beside him for his royal portrait. By this point, Viren's been studying more and more dark magic. It just made things easier, and in some cases, it has even saved lives. One day, the two queens of a neighboring country. The two queens of the neighboring country of Doran came to King Haru looking for aid. You see, their country had been experiencing a famine for nearly 7 years, and it had exhausted all of their resources. Winter was fast approaching, and Doran's advisors estimated that around 100,000 people would die of starvation. They begged King Haru to spare any resources that he could. King Haru decides to help, despite the fact that Katalis just barely had enough food to feed their own people, meaning that, theoretically, 100,000 people would still die. It's just that some of those people would be from Katalis. I'd call this noble, but let's be real for a moment. There's almost 0% chance that King Haru or his family would go hungry during this time period. Regardless, the decision still tortured him. King Haru was a good man and didn't want to see his people suffer. So Viren found a creative solution to their problem. Viren had a magic spell that was capable of growing enough food to feed 10 countries. Problem: the ingredient for the spell was on Zadia's side of the border. Also, the ingredient was this thing. That's a very important problem. So, King Haru and Viren formed a fellowship to go after the creature. For some reason, including the two queens from Doran and King Haru's own wife, someone might want to teach these people a lesson in plausible deniability. I'm just saying, if you're going to violate another country's borders, maybe don't send your leaders to do so. That way, you could at least pretend you didn't know anything about it. Why are you assuming I know anything about humans illegally crossing into your borders?
Motherfucker, you posted pictures on Twitter. You post with your whole family.
That could be anyone. Excuse me? It's called X.
Do the words political shitstorm mean anything to you?
So, on this excursion, everyone with the title of queen is killed, but otherwise the raid was a success, and using Viren's magic, both kingdoms grew enough food to survive. But King Haru is understandably pissed off. Haru's wife, Queen Sarai, had actually sacrificed her life to go back and save Viren. She was the only reason that he survived, and now she was dead. So you can honestly see where Viren's guilt is coming from. It takes him a few years, but eventually Viren finally finds a creative solution to the dragon question.
The last breath of a murdered victim, the horn of a unicorn, and the blood of one who loved the victim and desires vengeance.
That's my secret family recipe for cornbread muffins. Absolutely to die for. But in this universe, it just so happens to be a dark magic spell made to enchant a weapon to kill a specific target. Viren enchanted Queen Sarai's spear and presented it to Haru. Hey buddy, you wanna take this dark magic spear and go kill a dragon? So everyone with the title of Dragon King is killed.
A spear through the heart? That's my one weakness! How did you know?
Afterwards, Viren would sneak into the Dragon King's home and find the egg of the titular Dragon Prince. But the egg was not alone. There were two elves guarding him. So, let me ask you a question. Do any of you play Elden Ring? Any of you of the opinion that to play properly, you cannot be a magic user? No magic, no summons, naked, no hacks, standard equipment? Yeah, Viren says fudge you and your standards. Viren used his staff to trap the two guards, egg-naps the Dragon Prince, and also claps this bitch in mirror while he was at it. Before he left, dude probably dropped a deuce in the Dragon King's toilet and didn't even bother flushing, just because. I don't know if Viren planned to use the egg or the baby dragon for dark magic. Regardless, he would hide the Dragon Prince in a secret lab deep within the castle of Katalis. As I mentioned, this series of events are what kicked off the plot, because now Zadia wants revenge for the murder of the Dragon King and the supposed murder of the Dragon Prince. An eye for an eye leaves everyone blind, as they say. Zadia sends a party of Moonshadow Elf assassins. These dudes are basically SEAL Team 6 in this world. This isn't a power scaling video by any measure, but Katalis catches wind of the approaching assassins, and just knowing that they are Moonshadow Elves is enough for everyone to make peace with the fact that Haru is about to die. But can they beat Goku? Oh! No, they cannot. One of the greatest abilities is that when a Moonshadow Elf is under the full moon, they can turn invisible. What a fantastic skill to have for an assassin. And did I mention a full moon was fast approaching? So, Viren finds another creative solution, to use dark magic to Captain Ginyu King Haru into another body. King Haru is outraged at the idea of another person taking his place. I personally wonder if the fact that none of his soldiers is particularly attractive had anything to do with his decision, but the show doesn't corroborate this. I mean, come on, look at this man. So King Haru asks Viren the million-dollar question. You're expecting another person to die in my place. Will you be the sacrifice? Unfortunately for Viren, he blinked. Later, Viren gets a pep talk from his daughter Claudia. She, of course, has no idea what his intentions are, but Viren decides that yes, he would sacrifice his life for King Haru. Unfortunately, by this point, King Haru was basically done with Viren. I think King Haru blamed Viren for his current predicament. By the point in time that Viren was ready to enchant the spear, Haru was ready to let bygones be bygones. He was obviously still angry, but he had his sons and he had a kingdom to run. Viren was actually the one who pushed the issue, probably due in part to his own survivor's guilt. I should note, Haru really didn't require much convincing, but he never would have gone looking for revenge without Viren. The last meeting between Haru and Viren was not a pleasant one.
You will know your place. And where exactly is that place? Right here. On your knees. You are a servant of the kingdom of Katalis. You are a servant.
Certainly a Fujoshi's dream, though. One moment, I think I can do that one better.
You will know your place. And where exactly is that place? Right here. On your knees.
One moment. One more time.
You will know your place. And where exactly is that place? Right here. On your knees.
This would be the last on-screen appearance for King Haru, outside of flashbacks or ending sequences. There was a popular fan theory that Viren used a spell to Captain Ginyu King Haru and his bird Pip, but this has apparently been debunked by the creators. Never did get to see that body, though. I had wondered if maybe Viren used the coin spell on King Haru, but that spell doesn't leave a body, and this bracelet only broke after King Haru's supposed death, long after the final conversation with Viren. I'm going on a tangent here, though. Viren's following appearances would be much more difficult to defend. On the night of King Haru's death, his sons, Caleb and Ezrin, would find the egg of the Dragon Prince. The kids would leave the palace with one of the Moon Shadow Elf assassins to try to return the Dragon Prince back to Zadia. The kids were hoping that they could bring peace between the Pentarchy and Zadia and save King Haru. Sadly, neither of the boys knew that King Haru was dead by this point of the story. Viren, as the highest-ranking figure in the Kingdom of Katalis, crowns himself the Regent on behalf of Prince Ezrin. Other royal advisors try to slow Viren down, stating that no one should be crowned regent until Prince Ezrin was found. So Viren would then send out his 2 children to track down and retrieve Ezrin, Caleb, and the egg of the Dragon Prince. He'd also secretly give Soren the mission of making sure the boys never returned. Luckily, Soren isn't a murderer. At least not a very good one. His plan to kill Ezrin involves setting up a zip line that would presumably fail when Ezrin was on it, but apparently Soren was really good at setting up zip lines. To Claudia, Viren just told her to bring back the egg of the Dragon Prince, no matter the cost. Claudia asked, "What if I have to choose between the egg and Soren?" Before Viren answered, Claudia laughs and says she was just joking, but Viren answers, "The egg." During this time period, Viren would begin treating with the other 4 countries of the Pentarchy, hoping that others would join him in the coming war against the elves. Viren would use the King's Seal to treat with them, which, by the way, was a big no-no in Katalis. At the same time, Viren would also study the mirror I mentioned earlier. Viren had spent a long time trying to figure out what it did. He knew it had to do something. Why else would the Dragon King keep it in his lair? To save time, I'll just say that Viren was finally able to figure out the secret to the mirror. The mirror showed images of this blue elf. I won't go too deep into him right now, but this is Erebos, this world's version of Sauron. Pre-Rings of Power Sauron. Erebos was trapped in a magical prison, and the Dragon King was using this mirror to keep an eye on him, like some weird 100-foot tall Voyager. But the mirror worked both ways. Soon after Viren began scrying on Erebos, Erebos would notice Viren.
"I see you lurking there, my friend. It's only 5 gold pieces per month to become a member."
"I only have 4 gold pieces."
"No, 4 gold pieces is not enough. If you do not have 5 gold pieces, you do not have the time to waste on looking at magic mirrors. Go to work and come back when you have 5 gold pieces."
Erebos started showing Viren rituals so that the two could communicate, but before Viren could get too far, he would get called to a summit with the other 4 leaders.
5 gold pieces a month, my friend.
Unfortunately, things didn't go too well. Viren had been trying to rally the other 4 leaders to war. Unfortunately, 3 out of 4 of the other rulers refused to commit to a war unless all the others chose to do so. The last ruler outright said no. So, 4 out of 5 rulers are cool with the genocide. This one was the daughter of the 2 queens I mentioned earlier, and Viren tried to use that to convince her otherwise, but it was to no avail. When Viren returned to Katalis, one of the royal advisors confronted him. Opeli was enraged that Viren would use the King's Seal to treat with the other nations, and declared that she would see him ousted from the council. Ignoring her for the moment, Viren would return to Not Sauron.
"Did you get the 5 gold pieces, my friend?"
The 2 completed a ritual that would allow Erebos to communicate directly with Viren using this worm.
Is he talking to himself? What? No, of course he's not talking to himself. That'd be crazy. He's talking to his little bug pal.
Now, Erebos had a really fun idea that totally never happens in real life. Trust me, bros. Secretly attack the other human kingdoms, make it look like the elves are the ones responsible for the attack, and then the others will be more likely to join you in a war. It's like flying a flag, but falsely. While this was going on, Opeli was talking with the other counselors and gathering soldiers to arrest Viren. It took them a while to find him, but eventually she made her move to detain Viren. Viren struggled at first. Listen, Viren was clapping cheeks and dropping tea bags. It was mostly Erebos, though. He was the one casting the spells that Viren was using. However, Viren took a shot to the knee and Erebos convinced them to give up. Shortly afterwards, Prince Ezrin returned to the kingdom to take his position as king. Soren and Claudia would return shortly afterwards and visit Viren in his cell. Soren had revealed to Claudia that Viren wanted him to kill the princes. Claudia didn't believe Soren at first, but confronted Viren anyway. This man gaslit Soren so hard that even he began to doubt himself. You had both Viren and Claudia laughing that they were glad that Soren failed at what he thought Viren wanted him to do. That is absolutely vile. Unfortunately, no one was able to stop the plot that Viren set into motion. Several rulers of the neighboring countries died and several armies came to Katalis looking to join up for the war against Zadia. Prince Ezrin, despite having lost his father earlier in the series, was a, hey, let's all be friends type of ruler. Prince Kasif just lost his father and wanted to commit hate crimes. So, Kasif politically threatened Ezrin into an impossible choice, leading to Ezrin abdicating the throne, bringing back
Subscription to Tier 3 comes with pictures, videos, and political counseling. You should consider it, my friend.
Prior to abdicating, Ezrin demanded that any soldier that wished to lay down their arms be allowed to do so. As his first act as king, Viren stood before his army, but declared that anyone who resigned would be cowards and deserters. The other soldiers jeered at the people quitting. Side note, while this was going on, Soren snuck Ezrin out of the kingdom. So, Viren finally had his army and led them into Zadia. When asked what his goal was, Viren stated that it was to make sure that humans could thrive in this world. Erebos nudges him in the direction that to do so, Viren would need to kill the Dragon Queen and kidnap the Dragon Prince.
Speaking of army, do you have any soldiers who would like to join my community for 5 gold pieces?
On Zadia's side of the border, the first city that Viren's army reaches is Luxaria, the home of the Sunforge elves. Again, this is not a power scaling video, but these guys have blades that are as hot as the day they are forged. So basically medieval lightsaber for all intents and purposes. Also, they look so badass. Instead of sending in the army, Erebos hatches a scheme and Viren goes in alone. Using ancient knowledge given to him by Erebos, Viren is able to charisma his way into Luxaria to meet the queen. The queen takes one look at him and has him checked for dark magic. I feel like this might be stereotyping a bit, but she is right. He of course fails, so the queen decides that Viren should be purified by the Sunforge. I should explain Nexus Points. Nexus Points are locations where a particular primal magic is at its strongest and most pure. The Sun Nexus, i.e. the Sunforge, was this mini sun at the top of this tower. The queen and a small retinue of guards take Viren there to be purified, meaning he will be purged of all dark magic in his body and possibly killed. The Erebos bug that was hiding in Viren's mouth came out and possessed an elven mage. Using the mage's staff, which drew power from the Sun Primal, Erebos was able to corrupt the Sunforge. Erebos also bodied the Sunfire Elves and killed the queen.
I spread false rumors that lead to your grandmother being cancelled on Twitter.
This would destroy Luxaria. Even years later, the once glorious city had turned into a Dark Souls setting. Again, I'm going to repeat this for the third time. This is not a power scaling videos, but holy shit, this dude is not to be messed around with. Back at camp, Viren uses the Sun Staff and the Relic Staff to power up his soldiers, turning Kasif into this thing, and making his army resistant to fire and actually strengthened by it. But the spell also knocked a few points off their intelligence score. Soren was Viren's first choice for this spell, but Soren was like, nope, no, later, I'm out, peace. I ain't paying for your damn OnlyFans. This was the last line for Soren, who wisely dipped and joined Team Good Guy. Soren tried to take Claudia with him, but the trauma of having her mother leaving the family and now Soren saying that he wanted to leave their father, well, she breaks down. So Soren just leaves her. I really wish he had forced her to go with him. I really do. I imagine leaving Claudia would probably be one of Soren's biggest regrets, but to be fair, he doesn't really have a choice at this point. So, now powered up, Viren's army marched on the Stormspire, the nest of the Dragon Queen. By this point, our heroes and what's left of the Sunfire Elves had bunkered down here to defend the Dragon Queen and Prince. The final battle goes in the favor of the heroes. Viren's army had the numbers and the power, but they lacked discipline and leadership. Also, Team Good Guy would get reinforcements at the last moment. How they made it all the way into Zadia without being confronted, I don't know, but that's what happened. By the end, the hero's army is detaining prisoners and treating the wounded. Ezrin happened upon a wounded man. This man turned out to be Viren, who made to attack Ezrin. Soren came in to defend Ezrin and ended up killing Viren right in front of Claudia. Except it turns out that Viren must have taken a training arc in the Naruto universe because this thing was just a clone. The real Viren secretly made his way up to the cave of the Dragon Queen and was fighting Rayla. I did not mention her much, did I? This is Rayla, she's a Moonshadow Elf, one of the assassins sent to kill King Haru and Prince Ezrin at the start of the series. When she realizes that the Dragon Prince was still alive, she joined Calum and Ezrin in returning the egg back to his mother. But let's rewind a little further for a moment. As far as anyone in Zadia is concerned, these two guards abandoned their post, which led to the death of the Dragon Prince. They are both considered cowards to Zadians. Rayla is their daughter. She has had to live with the stigma of being the daughter of two cowards, never actually knowing what happened to her parents, until this little adventure when Calum helps her discover the truth. During the final battle in Book 3, while Viren is busy trying to drain Zim, Rayla tries to sneak attack Viren, who counters and disarms her. She then tries again, and for some reason, Viren did not defend this time. Bro must have been out of spell slots or something, I don't know.
My friend, you are out of spell slots. Please complete your membership into a tier 3 sub to get more spell slots. Only 5 gold pieces a month.
I only have 4 gold pieces.
Sigh, burn in hell, you poor bitch.
But both Rayla and Viren go over the cliff and are falling to their deaths. But Calum comes in at the last moment and rescues Rayla. As for Viren, nobody's there for him.
Oh my gosh, no! Falling off a mountain is my one weakness! How did you know?
So, for the moment, through this small act, there's actually some peace established between at least Katalis and Zadia. So, somewhat of a good ending. There are a lot of dead humans in this episode, though. Does that title card count as a spoiler? So 2 years have passed since the final battle on Stormspire. Using Iros' knowledge and reagents she gathered in those 2 years, Claudia casts a spell to bring Viren back to life.
My friend, I just dropped feet pics.
Problem. That spell itself only lasts 30 days. Supposedly, the only one who can make the resurrection spell permanent is Erebos himself. So Viren has a month.
To be clear, it's 30 days. Just to make sure you don't think it's a 31-day month, because we don't get the extra day.
So Viren has 30 days to find Erebos and make his return permanent. One tiny hiccup. His death and resurrection has completely purged Viren of dark magic. So he currently has a completely different perspective on things. I mean, Viren even seemed cool when introduced to Claudia's new boyfriend. Uh, golden rule of the internet, never ask a racist what color his girlfriend is. That is a gender-neutral rule, my friends.
I'm friends with dragons and elves now.
Oh, are you sure? Are they real friends? Or are they just taking advantage of you? You'll always be a human to them. You'll always be less.
So Viren has Claudia by his side. He doesn't have Soren. He burned that bridge back when he burned Luxaria. But Viren wonders if maybe instead of going on a perilous quest, if maybe he should just spend his final days spending time with his daughter. Claudia's new boyfriend is around, sure, but nothing in life is perfect. Bro looks like he's about to drop a hard R.
Knife ears.
So while Viren is contemplating his nice little trip with Claudia, Claudia is set on the path of saving her father and is prepared to do anything in order to do so. Claudia has murdered for the sake of her family. This isn't new to her. Each time she has lost a piece of herself, but she is committed. So, step 1, the group has to reacquire the relic staff. Simple enough. It's just up the mountain where Viren previously fell off of. Let me pause right there. Gentle friends, I would like to ask you, try not to judge Terry too harshly for what's about to happen. He definitely falls into the role of a character that is too good and wholesome, but it works based on the group that he finds himself in. I say this because this next scene almost made me punch my computer. As I said, the group needs to reclaim the relic staff, which is on top of the mountain that Viren fell off of. Viren is hit with PTSD hard. Understandable. From his point of view, he just died here. Seeing him go through that was really interesting. Dare I say, it could have been one of the best scenes in the series. Will he get through it? Will he run away? Will he faint? He faints later on, by the way. What will Viren do? Let's take a step back. When Terry is first introduced, it's revealed that when Terry passes gas, it smells like petrichor. Fast forward. Now, let's go back to that mountain. Viren is having PTSD. It's an emotional scene. I want to know what is about to happen. And then...
Whoop. Ignore that.
Hey, do I smell petrichor?
Guilty as charged.
Shut up! Shut the fuck up! Go away!
That one line completely killed my concentration on this scene. To the point where, after my first viewing, I literally thought this scene ended right here. I completely missed the part where Viren actually faints and falls off the mountain, almost dying a second time. Why the creators of the show would put a joke right here, I do not know, but they need to stop doing things like that. So, in the following scenes, Claudia decides to leave Viren at the camp while she and Terry go the rest of the way. Claudia gets into a fight. This scene is juxtaposed with a scene of Ezrin preaching against the concept of an eye for an eye. Ezrin's wording is very childlike, but he gets his point across. Claudia is overpowered and almost killed, but Terry comes in clutch at the last moment. The two hold each other crying. Like I said earlier, Terry is a good boy. He's never killed someone before and is taking his actions pretty seriously. I would hazard to guess he probably never even hurt anyone ever before. Viren sees this and actually tries to help, essentially by telling him to man up. The fact that Terry saved Claudia's life seems to have warmed Viren to Terry. So, they have the staff. With step 1 complete, the group returns to the cave that Viren had been resurrected in. Do you remember Viren's little bug pal? Well, 2 days before Viren's resurrection, it climbed up the wall and spun itself into this. Using a spell, Claudia hatched baby Golem. This thing, which is technically a child of both Erebos' and Viren's blood. Erebos isn't able to communicate directly to Viren at this time, so he uses this little homunculus thing to lead the group on a quest to find his prison. So the group goes on their merry little quest, and hey, they even find Soren while they're at it. Isn't that great? Yeah. So, Viren ends up falling off the wagon once and only once. Biggest problem with this being that they are on the clock, and when someone uses dark magic for the first time, they get sick. Again, Viren was purified after he was killed and resurrected, so he got a fever and went catatonic for the remainder of his 30 days. He also dreams during this time period. A lot of this is steeped in metaphor and subtext, so I'll just show you the most important parts for this video.
Daddy. I do good. I miss you, Daddy.
Oh, I love you too. No, you're going to be okay. Daddy will take care of you. No, no. No, I would do anything to change this. Anything!
Daddy, look. I'm following in your footsteps.
Claudia!
I'll do anything for our family, Dad. Whatever it takes, however dangerous, however vile.
On the 30th day, Erebos finally makes contact with Viren. Erebos offers to teach Viren the spell to finalize his resurrection, problem being that it requires the blood of the child. Viren is horrified at the idea of harming one of his children. Erebos replies that he figured Viren would feel that way for some reason, so offers him baby Golem. Viren tries. He really does try, but at the last moment he tosses the blade away. He then walks away, lays down, and waits for his time to pass. The final thing Viren hears before he falls asleep is that he won't wake up the next morning.
You dolt. I just started selling bath water.
So the next morning, Viren wakes up. The night prior, Terry and Claudia have a moment together. They had lost Aravos' prison. Neither knows where Viren is, and Claudia lost her leg. Overall, nothing is coming up Viren at the moment. On the morning of the 31st day, Terry happens upon what he assumes is Viren's corpse. Viren and Terry have a brief celebration, assuming that Erebos was lying about Viren's time limit. Turns out Claudia learned what she needed to do and sacrificed baby Golem for Viren. Oh, look how they massacred my poor girl. This moment absolutely shatters Viren. Even when dark magic is being used to heal someone, it still leaves its mark on the caster. In fact, it seems like anytime Claudia has used dark magic specifically for a healing spell, she has lost more and more of herself than any other type of spell. Viren realizes that dark magic has poisoned her. He realizes that he has poisoned her, and then he needs to leave her. The best option, not just for Claudia, but for the whole world, would be for Viren to turn himself in to Katalis, where he will probably be executed. Claudia doesn't take it well. Regardless, Viren leaves her, hoping that she'll find a better path with Terry. As an aside, this is the next Claudia and Terry scene.
My mom left me. My brother left me. And now, my dad is gone. Everyone leaves. But you're never going to leave me.
What?
Takes a few episodes, but Viren finds his way back to Katalis, where he is almost immediately arrested. In prison, Viren is regularly visited by Soren. Viren tries to talk to Soren, but Soren is understandably cold to him. At one point, Viren tries to write up a final confession for Soren, basically illustrating why Viren fell to begin with. Hey son, I know you're mad that I'm a bad person, but it's all the dark magic's fault. And I only started using dark magic to save you. Also, that's the reason your mother left us. Keep in mind that during this confession, Viren never once blames Soren in any of it, but he realizes that the truth would probably hurt Soren a lot more, so Viren ends up burning the letter. Honestly, I kind of agree with that. What do you think? Do you think Viren was right to keep the truth from Soren? Comment down below. Let me know what you think. I'm legitimately interested what other people think about this. So, the final episode of Season 6, a dragon by the name of Sol Regent attacks Katalis. Sol Regent was the former Dragon King and was incredibly powerful. The Katalis military tries to fight him off, but Soren realizes that any victory is going to be a Pyrrhic one, so Soren orders the soldiers to concentrate on evacuating civilians over fighting the dragon. Soren rushes down to Viren's cell. If you remember, Viren has a magic spell that can protect people from dragon fire. Even better, it's AoE and will hit all allied targets. Problem: the spell requires a Sun Primal to cast, which they do not have. Soren demands that Viren find a dark magic workaround, a creative solution, if you will. Viren doesn't need to find one, he already knows the creative solution. In place of a Sun Primal, Viren can sacrifice a human heart. Interesting enough, this is the second spell we know of that requires a human ingredient, by the way. I thought humans were completely unmagical. So, Soren offers his own heart to save the kingdom. I'm pretty sure you can figure out what happens next, and it isn't Soren giving his life. Viren uses his own heart to cast the spell and goes out like a fetch in Chad, protecting everyone in the kingdom. At the start of the video, I mentioned a bit of irony over Soren willing to give his life just to win Viren's approval. Well, the ironic part is, by the end of Season 6, Viren died for Soren's. I really like Viren as a character. He's not a morally good person by any stretch of the imagination. He always has good intentions even when he's falling down the slippery slope, but as they say about the path to hell and so on and so forth. It does raise the question though, do you think Viren atoned for his sins? Do you think his sins could ever be forgiven? There are at least 4 named characters trapped within those coins. You find out in Book 6 that those people are basically barred from the afterlife, unless someone happens upon the coins and cares enough to undergo a very dangerous ritual in order to free them. Better hope an altruistic person happens upon you or you, sir, are fetched. There's also all the Sunfire Elves that died when the Sunforge was corrupted, and all the people who may have accidentally wandered a bit too far into the Dark Souls land and run into one of these things. There are also the humans, the ones that directly and indirectly died by his hands. I'm also counting the humans that died during this battle. They are only there because of Viren's false flag. Also, all the magical creatures that Viren harvested over the course of a decade. But at the end of the day, maybe none of that matters. Viren died so that other people could live. Maybe that's enough. This video was a bit of a chunker. If you have enjoyed it, please drop me a like down below. Go ahead and comment. Let me know what you think. Go ahead and let me know who your favorite character from the Dragon Prince is. Oh, also, if you had to be born under one of the 6 Arcanum, which one would you choose? And if you have enjoyed my inane ramblings, please subscribe to the page. Peace.
I am a servant.